All right, we're going to change it up a little bit this evening. I will welcome everyone and call the meeting to order for the 11/6 Town Council meeting. If you would please stand as we have the presentation of colors and Pledge of Allegiance to be led by the Weeblo 2 Din from the Cub Scout Pack 105.
Color guard attention. Color guard advance. Please place your right hand on the heart. Color guard hold. Color guard salute. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard advance. Color guard post the color. Color guard dismissed. Audience, you may now be seated.
All right, great job. All right, up first on the agenda is the approval of a memorandum of the October 23rd, 2023 regular council meeting. A copy has been posted. Are there any questions from councilors? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion. I got a first by Vice President Burke, a second by Councilor Choi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next, we read the approval of the November 6th, 2023 claims. Are there any questions from councilors? I've got just Cindy, and you don't necessarily have to come up for this, but I've got 6 different invoices from Barnes and Thornburg that go back to August that were all apparently open invoices as of October 11th from our retainer, ordinance review, Ice America, mayor versus town council, totaling about $68,000. Do I need to give these to you, or do these not come directly? Okay. Perfect. Great. For those listening, she said we usually get those via email. So thank you very much, Cindy. I'll make sure that we pass those along to you. Any other questions from councilors regarding claims?
Make a motion to approve.
I got a first by Councilor Trailer. Second by Councilor Garrett. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is a request to speak on agenda item. Amy, did we have any requests to speak?
No, we did not.
Very good. We'll move along to the mayor administration update. And I understand we have a couple bullet points from Deputy Mayor Paquel.
Evening. Good evening. Just wanted to talk real quick. Baker Tilly has been in the house for pretty seriously the past 2 weeks. They've been working hard with our staff, changing. Our staff has been looking through, finding any issues that we could come up with. There will be an update from Dan with Baker Tilly, the next meeting coming up. As well as we are going to ask for an additional. That'll be a $20,000 not to exceed when they come up on the 20th. And that's to continue to finish the process. We figure that it'll probably go. We should have detailed information close to the next meeting, but the continuation of their work will help us transition all this information back into Keystone and then continue to track in Keystone so that we're on point for the next administration and next council. Okay. You have any questions on that? Okay.
Is that for the reconciliation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not the
Internal
Internal
control.
control audit.
internal control.
Right.
That's what I
Yeah,
was looking
they are working on that actively too, and
That's
they're nearly
separate.
done. Yes, sir.
Yeah, appreciate you guys working with them on that.
Yeah, no worries. And then, I'm going to table my second point. I'll wait on that. Okay. About the ARPA, the ARPA conversation. I'll table that on our end until after the meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from counselors? Up next would be the council update. Anything from counselors?
So I've got, so we've got the ARPA amended plan. We're voting on a final reading, and then working with the administration, I've got a proposed plan for the final ARPA money. I can either do that now, or I don't want to be so presumptuous to say we will pass this ARPA plan. I can also do it during other matters. Do you have a preference, President Plunkett?
I think we probably would be better to keep it separate from the existing plan. So
Okay,
maybe
it's no, there's no vote today. I'm just showing what I propose, and we'll have a dialogue about it. And then that will be at the next meeting, an actual vote on it. So if other matters, that's fine with me.
Yep, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from counselors? Move on to first item of old business. This is a consideration of an ordinance to amend the town of Zionsville traffic code. This is parking for the Big Four Rail Trail, ordinance 2023-22. This is a final reading. We have Deputy Director Lance here to speak if there are any questions. Good evening.
Good evening. You refer to me as deputy director. Is there something I should know?
DPW. Sorry, DPW Director.
I thought this was going to be a nice, fun.
That's what happens. You miss a meeting.
All
and
right,
you
now
forget it
we
all.
have that clarification made. You have before you a second reading of an ordinance establishing a no parking zone in all directions from a recently created mid-block crosswalk that serves the Big Four as it crosses Lemberger Drive in the Von Terra subdivision. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but it's a pretty straightforward no parking ordinance in support of this crosswalk.
Any questions from counselors?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a first by Counselor Garrett, second by Counselor Melton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next on old business is a consideration of an ordinance adopting a road impact fee. This is ordinance 2023-23. This is also a final reading, and we have Lance, DPW Director, here this evening as well.
Thank you. This is the second reading again for an ordinance that updates our road impact fee that's been in place since 2007. You have already adopted the zone improvement plan into the comprehensive plan, as the plan commission has as well. The plan commission held a hearing on this ordinance and passed along to you a favorable recommendation. You introduced this at your last meeting, and while this ordinance is only an update, it is rather robust. Most of the content of the ordinance is just reaffirming or confirming the processes that we've had in place since 2007. The substantive part of the ordinance update is increasing the per trip fee from $106 per trip to $278.35 per trip. If you approve this ordinance update this evening, this will not go into effect for 6 months. So the rule will continue on at the current rate until 6 months from adoption.
Very good. Any questions from counselors? I would make a motion to approve on final reading ordinance 2023-23. Second. Second by Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you, Lance. Up next is a consideration of an ordinance approving an American Rescue Plan Act plan as amended. This is ordinance 2023-24. This is, as Councilor Garrett mentioned, a final reading, and we have Councilor Garrett and Attorney Heather Harris here to speak and present.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. We passed this, I think 4-0 at the last meeting. These are items that, for the most part, were in the budget proposal as we went through and whittled things down. We moved to the ARPA dollars. ARPA dollars are federal funds that we get and have to be at least contracted by the end of 2024 and spent by 2026. So as a quick reminder, this is things like public works equipment purchases, some road projects, town hall maintenance, our transportation plan, comprehensive plan, some fire department apparatus for self-contained breathing units, and then grants for Z-Works, the chamber, the Zionsville Cultural District, as well as a downtown bathroom study. So I think this is a really good plan for the community. I think it's money well spent, and certainly endorse it wholeheartedly. But happy to answer any questions councils have on it.
Yeah, are there any questions from counselors, or Heather, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I can just clarify, there were a couple questions brought up at the last meeting about the use of the funds and whether or not you could use it in this category versus another category. I did share with the council, but for members of the public, we did go back and confirm that the Treasury Department rules implementing the ARPA program do allow for any expenditure that is eligible in any category to be used in the revenue loss category. So what you'll see from our initial plan is we actually took the premium pay as well as all these new additional expenditures and put them in the category for revenue loss. That allows the town to only have one reporting obligation, which will make it much easier for Cindy and her team to actually report to the federal government compliance. The other thing in keeping it in this category that it will do, we had the question come up of whether or not a grantee like the chamber, for example, that's proposed in this amendment would become a subrecipient and therefore carry all the duties and obligations to report, just as the town would have the duty and obligation to report to the federal government. If you sweep it into revenue loss, the reporting obligation is actually on the amount. So once the town lets that amount, writes that check from the town to the chamber, for example, that is the end of that obligation. So they're not considered a subrecipient when they're in the revenue loss category. So Department of Treasury actually has been encouraging everyone to basically put everything in the revenue loss category because it makes it easier both for the town to be compliant as well as to the recipients in terms of their compliance. I think there will be and has been historically, I talked to Deputy Mayor Kell, who shared with me, there is a contract that goes out from the town when monies are spent in the community enrichment grant fund to make sure that the recipients use them for the intended purpose. And I think that would be appropriate here as well. But we wouldn't be imposing any additional reporting obligations as we would have had if we were in a different category under ARPA in our plan. So hopefully that's clear as mud. I know lots of subrecipient, recipient words, but the short answer is we don't have any additional reporting obligations that will be necessary for the recipients.
Any other questions or comments from counselors?
If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I got a first by Counselor Garrett, a second by Counselor Choi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Up next is consideration of an ordinance establishing the 2024 budget for non-DLGF funds. This is ordinance 2023-25. This is also a final reading. And we have Cindy Poor, Director of Finance and Records, here to speak if there are any questions.
We did make the change that the council requested at the last meeting by adding those items under the Fund 176 ARPA for this budget. Everything else remained the same.
Are there any questions from counselors for Cindy?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a first from Counselor Garrett,
Second.
second by Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Do I need to make a note on record that Alex wasn't here for that particular vote? So for the record, Alex Choi was not present for that vote. All right, thank you, Cindy. Up next would be new business. The first item of new business is a consideration of an ordinance to revise the food and beverage tax fund and uses. This is ordinance 2023-26. This is a first reading. And Heather, you mind walking us through this one,
Yeah,
please?
absolutely.
Thank
So this is fairly straightforward. This ordinance would amend our current Zionsville food and beverage tax ordinance. Historically, we've had language in Zionsville that's more restrictive than the state statute and narrows the groups of recipients that would be eligible to receive food and beverage tax fund. So we're basically going in and we're repealing those sections and replacing it with state statute. The other change we're making is there were still old references to clerk treasurer in the food and beverage statute. So we've replaced all the terms clerk treasurer with director of the Department of Finance and Records, as this would set with Cindy and her team. We had language just to share back that said that the funds could solely be used for the creation and enhancement of any public facility or infrastructure improvement, or to fund initiatives intended to promote the town and its businesses, and for no other purpose. We felt this language was really too restrictive, created unnecessary barriers for applicants for the town. And we've been funding historically lots of projects similar to those that are proposed today for grants, but we haven't really ever gone back and cleaned up the statute. So we've repealed that section and replaced it with the statutory language, which basically allows you to use the funds to reduce the town's property tax levy in any particular year, or more importantly here, you can use it for any legal or corporate purpose of the town, including the pledge of bonds, leases, or other obligations. So with this change, you can use those food and beverage funds really for any governmental purpose that would be appropriate. You'd still have the process. They would still come back before the town council for approval. So you'd still have those checks and balances, but this would simplify the process and allow more recipients to apply for those funds. Also, importantly, it would allow us to legally approve the ones that are currently before you.
Thank you, Heather. Are there any questions from council?
Not a question. Thank you, Heather. I know those groups may not be with us tonight, but they were here for the last couple of meetings. The nonprofit applicants who had diligently and patiently waited and applied for these dollars. And obviously the right thing for us to do was to pause to make sure that we could appropriately fund those nonprofit charities while also following our own town regulations and the law. And so this is a step that we had to take. And so I hope everyone appreciates the process that we've gone through. And once this is done, then hopefully we can circle back and make sure that those nonprofits are able to receive dollars that they need. So it's just a good lesson in good government. I appreciate everybody who played a part.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a first by Counselor Trailer. I'll second that. President Plunkett, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. For the record, Counselor Choi is back in the council chambers. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. Up next is a consideration of a reappropriation resolution for fire. This is resolution 2023-22. We have Chief Van Gorder here to present. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. I come before you this evening regarding a fire department reappropriation in the 2023 budget. This is not new money. This is simply a reallocation of underspending in other lines within the fire department. We are attempting to accomplish 4 financial needs of the fire department. One is provide the final piece to allow the fire department to purchase the self-contained breathing apparatus previously mentioned. That was split out in the ARPA funds as well as in the 2024 budget, and the cost estimates that we have received are exceeding that. So to accomplish that goal and allow us to purchase that equipment, we would require the approval of this resolution before you. Would also allow us to address needs in our protective clothing and uniform line item, vehicle maintenance, and office furniture needs, which are also items that were contained within the 2024 budget but had to be reduced and cut out due to maintaining positive cash flow balances. Be happy to answer any further questions you may have.
Any questions from counselors? I would make a motion to approve resolution 2023-22.
Second.
Second by Counselor Melton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. Up next is a consideration of an ordinance amending the 2023 salary ordinance. This is ordinance 2023-27. This is a first reading. We have Cindy Poor, Director of Finance and Records, here to present.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you. This is to increase the salary for the municipal relations coordinator who will be assuming the duties of manager over our municipal action center. Currently, we have our permitting manager that is managing the MAC, and with other responsibilities that she has taken on, we have decided, or it has been decided, that to kind of spread that out. And so the management of the MAC will fall under the municipal relations coordinator. So it's just to fix the salary in the salary ordinance for 2023.
From an HR perspective, what's the balance if there are two pressing needs? You know, this role supports council with timelines and there's needs of the municipal relations center or the MAC. How does that, have we thought through that as you start sort of having, I don't want this to be like Office Space where someone has 7 bosses.
I will let Joe Keel, our Director of Human Resources, answer that.
I'm assured that the balance of responsibilities can be taken care of. The situation is obviously the manager that's currently has 10 direct reports, which is way too many direct reports. And because the municipal relations coordinator, tough title, is doing some of that now anyway, based on proximity. I'm assured that it will, that responsibility can be taken over without anything suffering.
So I just have a couple of questions, and maybe Heather, you can chime in on this too. So the last one you've just addressed, it doesn't take away or change any duties associated with the council. And the only change to this particular job is just the supervision of the MAC, right? When we reestablished the municipal relations coordinator position in ordinance 2023-05, we put in there specific protections for that person. Does this modify that in any way? Like, does that remove those protections?
I do not believe so. I'm not an attorney, but her title, the title hasn't changed, so it wouldn't,
Okay.
I wouldn't think.
And that is the key. So in that ordinance, it uses the title municipal relations coordinator. And the title hasn't changed. If the title had changed, I think I would want to go back and amend that, but I did take a look at that and I don't have any concerns with the way it's drafted.
Perfect.
And I don't know why I moved so close to Amy. I guess I just wanted to give her some support. So my apologies, Amy. I'm very close to you right now.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other questions from counselors?
Just curious, so is that a head of a department role?
No,
That's not considered a head of a department role?
it is a manager. It is supervisory functions that have been added to a current position.
But because of the ordinance that we put in, it reserves those protections specifically for that person, for that title.
Yeah, you may recall the reason for that, Councilor Melton, was we put those protections into the ordinance previously for the municipal relations coordinator. Because when you go back to the reorganization, ordinance 2014-11, we split the duties when we created the Department of Finance and Records position. Originally, it was in the ordinance that created the chief financial officer. And then when we changed that, we sort of reestablished the duties. So we have clerk treasurer duties, which are financial in nature, that have been transferred to the Director of Finance and Records, doing all of the claims for the towns and those responsibilities. Those were clerk treasurer duties before reorganization. And then we have the responsibilities to the council, serving as the clerk of the council, which fall in the municipal relations coordinator. So we really needed to establish both of those duties clearly to make sure that we had not missed any of the previous clerk treasurer duties, which would be required as part of the reorganization document. So those duties are protected, and then there's additional reporting directly to the council, which would have been required by the clerk treasurer prior to reorganization back in 2011.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Cindy or Joe? I would make a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance 2023-27.
Second.
A second by Counselor Choi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you, Cindy. Staying up here for this one too?
Mhm.
All right. Consideration of up next is a consideration of the 2024 salary ordinance. This is ordinance 2023-28. This is a first reading. We have Cindy Poor, Director of Finance and Records, and HR Director Joe Keel.
Actually, Cindy's been excused.
All right.
You have the 2024 salary ordinance in front of you, or did. The Exhibit A includes a 4% increase staff-wide salary increase. It also captures the municipal relations coordinator increase that we just discussed. 2 additional positions in DPW, updated stipends. Exhibit B is the holiday schedule for 2024. There are no changes to that other than dates for 2024. And then Exhibit C is the longevity pay. Again, no changes to that. Happy to answer any questions.
There any questions from counselors?
Make a motion to introduce on first reading.
Second.
Got a first from Counselor Trailer, second from Counselor Garrett. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Great, thank you.
Up next is other matters.
You mind,
Counselor,
if I've got one quick thing just to make mention of, and then I know you've got more. We just to remind the council, we have an outstanding invoice from OpenGov for about $70,000, and I'm not as much to Counselor Garrett's prior comments months ago. I'm not really interested in solving other people's problems, but it's also not the next council nor the next mayor's problem. So I think we, at some point over the next 3 meetings, need to either pay it or make a decision as a group not to. So just bringing that to the attention of the council, that has not gone away, and they do continue to call to check on when that's going to be paid.
Okay, so I've got, as you saw here, we approved that ARPA rescue plan. Joe, if you're ready, I've got a few slides to run through just to go through a process here. There we go. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the ARPA plan, the ARPA money that we got during COVID times does have a time horizon associated with it. In fact, I just got this email the other day from the National League of Cities, fun read. Just reminding us that if you don't allocate these dollars and have them contracted by end of 2024, you will be asked to give them back. And there's a lot of things that you can use these for. They're much more flexible than they were at first, which is some of the reason for the delay. And some of it was getting input from a lot of different folks. But I do think it's important to make sure that these are appropriated accordingly. So we've got about a little over $2.4 million left to spend. Just a little quick history. The first round was working with the mayor on employee bonuses for COVID, for those employees that worked through COVID, had to come in, our first responders, really everyone that had to come in when a lot of us were able to work from home. The second you just witnessed, which were budget items in 2024 that we moved to ARPA so that we could have less of a deficit in that budget and create a sustainable budget. And so I'm now looking at things that were also in the budget that maybe didn't make that first cut. And working with the administration, sending out kind of the bat signal to all of the department heads, I really asked for what are things that you may want for these ARPA dollars, with sort of the caveat that, I'm looking for one-time type expenses, cost savings, things like that. I'm not looking for recurring charges. I'm not looking for new employees that will create expenses down the line for future councils, future administration. So you can see here, we got just a little over $10 million in requests that came in. I'm going to go through how I'm going to do two things. I want to show you all the requests that I got. And I'm going to go through how I recommend that we spend them. Now, this is just my recommendation because of open door laws. I really haven't had a chance to talk to you guys about this. So this is the public discussion. If the way you think or the administration thinks that this money should be spent differently, I think what I'd like to do is have that conversation here today, and what to expect then is then we'll have another ARPA ordinance with the final money that will go through here in the November and December meetings. Some of my recommendations are, again, cost savings, and I think this provides the next council, the next mayor, we know who the next mayor will be, but we don't know what the next council will be, some budget flexibility in 2025. So things that are perhaps long overdue, things that are needed in the community, we can pay for these now and give them then the flexibility for their budget to set whatever priorities there may be. And I think when you look at these, I hope that these priorities match up. Department heads are here, representation is here. So councilors, if you see any of these things that I'm showing that have been requested and you've got questions on them, we can certainly go through that. But like I said, I'm going to go through everything that was requested, and then what I have picked out, kind of like old Wheel of Fortune style, when you had to pick the stuff out from the rotating showcase. I picked that stuff out. So in no particular order, Zionsville, the fire department, had 3 requests here. And I'll go through this really quick. Certainly this is available publicly if anyone wants to review this, and I'm happy to share it with all of you as well. It was really around future locations of fire stations, apparatus, design work, about $1.2 million related to those types of requests. The police department was focused more on what they have today, a police station that is perhaps in need of some tender loving care here. So some flooring, drywall, some security improvements with a public bathroom, replacing some long overdue garage doors and a roof that is leaking. Community economic development had some requests here, first floor redesign for their team to work more efficiently, buying out of a current vehicle, and some small upgrades that just kind of, I would call them quality life upgrades for their employees. Wastewater had a list here of a variety of different types of vehicles, system upgrades, backup replacement items to have on stock, just kind of general blocking and tackling. And I think as you see me go through this list, there's nothing in here that's like really just like, I think frivolous. I mean, a lot of these things have been needed. A lot of these things have been on past budgets. They just haven't made the cut for one reason or another. And the asterisk ones, just in case you're curious, were notated as high priority by DPW. This is streets, again, equipment, some pathway stuff that I know is important to many councilors. I know certainly the mayor has expressed interest in more pathways. And so part of that is design and part of that is pathway. One of the other things to think about too is, and I wasn't necessarily going to propose this, but I was just kind of curious. I was having a conversation with DPW Superintendent Lance, and I said, well, what if I just gave you all the money to just do all pathways? It's kind of an easy thing. Everyone loves pathways. Why not just do that? And, part of this is, again, when you've got a hard date of when you have to contract for things, you can't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be able to do it in that period of time. So pathway, for example, there's a lot of land acquisition that has to happen as a part of that. There's design work that has to happen as a part of that. And so, doing that, I think there's a good chance that money may be wasted. So here, when you see, engineering work, and when I say wasted, I mean sort of expired. When I see, engineering work, well, engineering work can get done. That then effectively creates, what I would call a shovel-ready project for the next mayor, the next council. there's no obligation. They have to fund it. But certainly, based on input we've gotten from the pathway committee, these might be the next logical pathways that they may want to get done. Parks had some vehicle needs, dump truck, zero turn mower, I should say, Polaris and some smaller asks there as well as things for the golf course, which the golf course has its own budget. One of the non-DLGF budgets that we just approved, that's part of the golf course budget because they're self-sustaining. They're not based on tax dollars. I'm sorry. Yeah, they're based on usage dollars, some Lincoln Park improvements, things like that. IT, Joe had a lot of different requests for everything from an entire document management system to, some overdue network security information or systems. Not necessarily the most exciting kind of things because you can't see them. You can't walk on a network switch, but they are certainly important in terms of making sure that we are able to keep everyone functioning properly. And I sort of call this other. One of them was my own. And I just call this ARPA oversight reporting, just to make sure that, as we're going through this, Heather's been very helpful on our end. Cindy's been very helpful on her end, but just making sure we've got someone that can check off on all of this stuff, make sure that we are getting the reporting in that we need to so that a future administration does not get a bill from the federal government because we forgot to file some sort of form. And HR had requested some leadership training. So I put all this into a spreadsheet, with $10 million and $2.4 million to spend, and it goes pretty quickly when you look at it that way. I mean, really, I could only put in 24% of the request. So my priorities were kind of a couple things. One was certainly, department identified needs. These are not things that are pet projects or coming from any counselor. These are things that our department heads have said they've needed to do their job to serve us citizens in a better way. And I've looked at things like cost savings. So, can we spend $1 now to save $3 tomorrow? That was a huge determining factor for me, as well as connectivity. That is something I think that all of this council has talked about, pathways and trailways being an important piece for that. And as I mentioned earlier, it provides that pressure release, I think, for the 2025 budget, which I think will continue to rise in revenues. And I think with the budget that we passed together with the administration for 2024, I think we'll be in a really good shape financially for that next council, that next administration. So you had to listen to all that to, I guess, get to the meat of what I am recommending. And I'll sort of talk through as to why. So for CED, the buyout of an inspector vehicle lease, that obviously we now own that vehicle. We save lease obligations there, and I thought the quality life improvements were needed, necessary to help them with their job. So there's a lot of money here being spent on pathways. Two of them are pure engineering. And I mentioned earlier, this is to give the next administration, the next council, a shovel-ready project, whether it is through grant, whether it is through dollars that we have, federal dollars, whatever, they would be able to move forward with those. I've got a little asterisk there on that County Road 300 South pathway project. There is a development project for a senior living facility that is going through the PUD process and is going through the Planning Commission. They potentially proposed doing a TIF. Part of those TIF dollars would then go to connectivity along 421 on the east side, as well as crossing 421, which I know has been a big piece. I know Vice President Burke, you've been pushing for that. So by us getting in front of it and doing the engineering, if and when that TIF is approved and funded, and that we funded all front loaded, so we'd get all the money up front, we'd be able to effectively hand them the plans and say, go build this. So that was kind of a no-brainer. I also included a pathway construction itself right there at County Road 875 and Whitestown Road. That is something that is, what I would call shovel ready because of past design work that has happened. And so I'd love to see that built. And then also a hoist crane truck for DPW waste. That was a high priority need for them, something that would be coming up in the next budget anyways. I thought leadership training is always a good thing from an HR standpoint. From IT, getting a network switch replacement. This is page 1 of 2, so bear with me. As well as upgrading these microphone systems for public access and also for the fire station so that they don't have to leave the fire station to do training. They can actually do that in the training room at that fire station itself. I included the ARPA reporting oversight, although not at the dollar amount I'd hoped for, just because I ran out of dollars effectively. A couple of pieces of equipment for parks, including the tractor for the golf course, which I know is badly overdue, as well as the nature playground and Carpenter Nature Center. I picked that one because it's got a matching grant. So we can take those $75,000 and double them through that matching grant. So that seemed like a good ROI there. For ZFT, for the fire department, it was getting the land acquisition for that future fourth station. My rationale behind that was land prices will only keep going up, so we might as well lock that down. And in the future, if we decide we don't need that land or it needs to be in a different spot, if we don't need that land, we can just sell that land and reappropriate those dollars as needed. Or if it needs to be a different spot, we can do some type of trade and or sell it and buy that other land. So we might as well lock that land in now. And then ZPD, 2 upgrades that would, my understanding by conversations with them would extend the life of that building by a good 10 years. So spending $200,000 now to not have to build potentially another police station or a new police station. Whitestown just did one and it cost $10 million. I thought that was a really good use of dollars. So if you look at all of those funds, that's effectively the dollars that we have left. This is a terrible graph. I apologize, but this is sort of how it's broken down by department. And it's a bit of a misnomer because, in this case, it doesn't look like Parks is getting that much money, but a lot of the Parks money is sort of kind of also trails, but because of where it exists close to the roadway, it is in the DPW's budget instead of the Parks budget, and certainly prioritization for our public safety friends. So I certainly want to discuss this plan. If there's questions on this, we can certainly go through this in more detail. Assuming we agreed or whatever we agreed on, we would then create that final ARPA ordinance that would be in front of us, hopefully at our next meeting, our 2nd November meeting. We would pass that before the end of 2023. And then once those monies are appropriated, those department heads can start spending them or at least contracting for them. If those monies for some reason are underspent, those monies can be reallocated. So, if we end up getting land for $500,000 instead of $600,000, we can reappropriate those dollars. That's just not going to be my problem. That's the next council's problem. So they'll just have to keep an eye on that to make sure that we can't reappropriate it past that 2024, end of 2024 date. So that was a lot to absorb. Happy to answer any questions or go back if you want to look at any more details. And I will certainly send this out. Like I said, there is no vote today. This is just my recommendation. It's not the council's recommendation. And the department heads is the first they're seeing of this. So, if there's something in there that they feel strongly about one way or the other for something I've identified that's maybe of the same cost for something else, I'm certainly up for that conversation as well.
Well, first of all, I think want to thank you for the work you've done on this. This is heavy lifting, so appreciate it. One of the things we do need to do is go back to the department heads and make sure that the priorities that you set forth, and I think they're all great priorities, are the ones that they would have chosen as well. So happy to help with that conversation as I go through. Sorry. And so happy to help you with that conversation if you need to go back and make sure that these are the priorities that they want to put forward as well.
Sure. Yep. Happy to include you in that conversation.
But thank you very much for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a heavy lift. So I certainly appreciate you going through this. Just like Alex said, I'd like to understand the department heads, priorities where they think that, these fall, certainly, if there's other folks that are interested, the new administration perhaps, or somebody else that would have some thoughts on how some of this stuff should be spent. But I mean, I think that we've had ARPA meetings in the past, whether it's been a separate public meeting or, council meetings where we've discussed ARPA and there's not been any direction on what to do with it. So certainly appreciate you taking the lead on this.
And I'm certainly, I think that makes sense. I think, from a public perception standpoint, or the reality is, and just so everyone in the audience knows, open door laws, a majority of any public body, such as a council, cannot meet privately. So I'm happy to do it. I just can't communicate that back and forth in sort of over email because it has to be in a public forum. So what I can do is, I can, Counselor Choi and President Plunk and I can copy you on communication to the department heads and administration, and we can sort of have that conversation. The rest of the council will be somewhat blind to that until we then present that plan in 2 weeks. Which is not, that's typically how we do something anyways. It's not a problem. I just wanted everyone to see it now. So if there was something on here that really stood out in terms of either being spent or not being spent, it would be good to know that if any counselor had a thought on that, just to include that as a part of the conversation.
I appreciate you doing this heavy lifting as well. And I appreciate that you attempted to kind of build in an ROI around it as well in terms of how do we save money down the road or any of these cost savings down the road. And I think a lot of it makes really good sense. I'm with everybody else. I don't know that you're going to get department heads to come up to the mic now and weigh in. But certainly offline over the next 2 weeks, I think that's going to happen, and just be curious how all that plays out. But I'm happy to weigh in as well, however I can. But I think it makes a lot of sense. And I am pleased to see some of the pathways work in here that was presented to us back in August when the Pathways Committee presented to this council. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or anything for Counselor Garrett?
Counselor Garrett, can you forward this to us?
100%. Yep.
Please,
I will send this out. I'll send it out to the department heads administration so they can all see it for sure.
Please, thank you.
And even though this isn't calendared, we still can't, Heather, correct? We still can't communicate back and forth on all this stuff.
Share with Counselor Garrett what you want. I wouldn't ask a group.
Yeah.
I just think that generally violates the spirit of open door laws.
Avoid reply all.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for putting that together. Any other matters from counselors?
Just kudos to our scouts for sticking out an entire meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
But when I got one more, I got Lance, I got to give kudos to your guys every year, the leaf collection. That's a lot of work, but thank you, or thanks to them.
Did you know the city of Indianapolis is trying to replicate what we do up here? So congratulations.
It is much appreciated by the folks who live here.
Indeed.
Hey, one final comment. Happy birthday to our council president, Jason Plunkett.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. If there's nothing else, just as a brief reminder, please remember to vote tomorrow at the Whitestown Town Hall, Hussey Manfield Library, and Zionsville Town Hall from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So the next regular town council meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 20th, 2023 at 7:30 a.m. in the Zionsville Town Hall Council Chambers. Public notice will be posted in compliance with Indiana open door law. Thank you.
Hold on a sec. I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Jeez.
Second.
But yeah. Did you make a motion to adjourn? First from Counselor Garrett, second by Vice President Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
This meeting was just gonna keep going on the record for 2 more weeks.
Yeah, it's his birthday. I'll give him.
Yeah, so again, next regular scheduled meeting scheduled for Monday, November 20th, 2023, 7:30 a.m. Town Hall Council Chambers. Public notice will be posted in compliance with Indiana open door law.